days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the 49ers versus Rams game reaction show. Playoff version, Alex, because we're in playoff week now. 49ers got it done against Los Angeles Rams, and we're going to talk all about it right now.
Have to talk all about it, man, because what an absolute thrilling, incredible, drama-filled, down-to-the-wire headache of a football game for 49ers fans. Because if you watch this thing from start to finish, you covered the full spectrum and range of emotions, from heartache to we suck again to it's over. We need the Saints to choke their game away to, we rise like the phoenix from the ashes, to the Jimmy G errors late in this football game and looking like all hope was lost to, the incredible drive to close the game out. Fred Warner winning the toss in overtime and feeling like, the Niners are going to get this thing done. And then actually getting it done, Ant. So, I mean, what an absolute game. If you only watched the second half, you would have felt like, man, how are the Niners down, 17-3? And it looks like they're just dominating, controlling, and owning this team. You would think, how did they get themselves in this position? But look, the Niners did because they got basically a taste of their own medicine in the first half of this football game. The Rams were the one that were controlling the clock. It wasn't with the run game, and they were basically just chunking plays out with the pass and having success against zone at times and able to move the football down the field. But they were being very physical with the Niners on the defensive end as well, coming downhill, flying and really stifling the run game, getting the 49ers off the field, not allowing them to extend drives, putting them in third and longs. You got to tip your hats to the Rams. They came out with a good game plan. They executed that game plan very well, and they controlled the time of possession and really flipped the script on San Francisco in the first half of this football game.
Yeah, I mean, they were converting on third down. That was the big part of this football game, is they were able to convert. And, I mean, it looked like the 49ers were going to get off the field to start this game right away. They had the Rams in a third, in long situation. They weren't able to get it done. The Rams running game really never showed up, never in this football game. That is the difference. I think eventually they thought, hey, it'll show up if we stick to it. Eventually it's going to get there, and it just never did. And the 49ers stuck to what they were doing. They kept playing them. They kept playing them tough and playing that run and taking it away. And once again, taking it away with 7 guys in the box, sometimes 8. They would bring a safety up late and be able to use him in that manner. So I thought that overall the 49ers game plan was good. The problem was the Rams were just better in the first half. The Rams were a better football team in every way. They were handling business. Yes, the defense for the 49ers stepped up in that first drive and was able to get a stop and forced a field goal, which ends up being huge in this game because you needed every single one of those points. But the 49ers, the first half was just not a good look. I mean, it was bad. It was bad football. They weren't able to execute. They weren't able to get the plays that they needed to get until they got into a 2-minute situation. Once you got into the 2-minute situation, you saw Jimmy kind of let go of the football. You saw some open receivers as the Rams relaxed their defensive style. The whole prevent defense was in effect, and the 49ers took advantage of it. And I believe it got Jimmy Garoppolo and this 49ers offense into a little bit of a rhythm, and that rhythm they were able to carry on in the second half. But it was a definite tale of two halves because that first half was dominated by the Rams. It felt like, just like you said, physically, they were imposing their will over the 49ers, even though they weren't doing it in the run game. It felt like they were doing it defensively and also breaking the 49ers back on third down. But the Niners were able to turn that around going in the second half.
Yeah, and you tip your hat to D'Amico Ryans and Kyle Shanahan for, again, halftime adjustments, something that Kyle has shown that he is extremely, extremely good at. And he's shown that all season long. D'Amico Ryans has shown that he is one of the better defensive coordinators in the league by his ability to be able to change certain things in what you're doing, be able to build off as well the things that you're doing well already. And defensively, like you talked about, the Niners were doing an incredible job of stopping this run game with 7 guys, not letting the Rams have the big play downfield, on every drive. It feels like the games where the Rams win, right? They have that one drive, one possession, one play every game where they take a 70-yard shot downfield, complete it, and score a big touchdown. The Rams didn't have that today. They did not have that opportunity. The Niners were able to keep those two safeties back, make Matt Stafford trying to operate under the middle. And then your pass rush, your 4-man pass rush was able to start getting home. But you also started seeing DeMeco Ryans blitz and sending blitzes up the gut and able to get pressures and hits on Matt Stafford, which was absolutely huge because it took them out of rhythm, right? And once the Rams offense was out of rhythm and no longer moving the ball downfield, converting on third downs, now the Niners offense was able to really get going because they had more opportunities, more chances, and they really just built off that last drive in the first half and just kept on chipping away at this lead. When they tied that thing up, I was like, okay, this is a whole new ball game. It comes down to now one stop or one turnover, and the Niners should be able to hopefully run away with this thing so we're not sitting looking at a close game at the end. That's not exactly how that ended up finishing out.
Yeah, I think that in the second half, the 49ers came out and established, and imposed their will in the run game. And you saw, very nice designs on the run plays, but also great execution, whether that was from Elijah Mitchell or Deebo Samuel. Both of them kind of took over with a different type of mentality, but a physical one. Deebo Samuel running in the middle, running outside, Elijah Mitchell running in the middle, running outside, and then some timely runs that they were getting in, to Michael Hasty as well. I thought that they did a good job of mixing it up a little bit, mixing up the looks and keeping the Rams off balance. That's what they had to do. That drive where they ran the ball 8 straight plays was a big drive in this football game, as it established, a mindset that the 49ers were back, and this is how they were going to play, and this is how they always play the Rams. Bully ball was back, but it didn't show up until the second half, and that's when the 49ers offense started clicking. And I thought that, they had some big plays in this game, whether it was the screen pass to Deebo Samuel where he gets up the field for over 30 yards, or some of the plays that they were going on the little seam routes to Brandon Aiyuk. I thought that overall they were playing well. But you're right. They kind of got stuck on that 17-17, part of the game. That was a part that really started to frustrate me because I believed the 49ers, had the momentum and really had missed some opportunities that could have put them up 7, 10 points in that game. And they missed those opportunities. And the Rams were able to capitalize on the opportunities that were afforded to them.
Oh, yeah, 100%, Ant. They definitely were. But can we give a shout out to Deebo Samuel for now throwing a touchdown pass in an NFL game as well, Ant? And it came off of a situation where you and I have been expecting to see a play action sort of look out of that formation where they kind of reverse out and hand the ball to Deebo Samuel behind. And we talked about specifically how Brandon Aiyuk we thought would be the guy that would get an opportunity on a big play like that because he always comes in, settles, looks for a linebacker, and then has an opportunity to fly upfield and could be wide open for an opportunity. They actually hand it off to Deebo. Jauan Jennings is in that Brandon Aiyuk role. He gets up second level, makes contact, and then just releases out. I was like, oh, there it is. That's what we've been expecting to see. I did not expect to see Deebo Samuel being the one throwing it there, and neither did the Rams, because as soon as that ball got into Deebo's hands, they came flying downhill, wanting to impose themselves, not let Deebo get to the outside. Jauan Jennings is able to adjust and make a great play on the ball. That was a huge turning point for the Niners as well, just in terms of like actually punching one into the end zone there and just finally just feeling like you got one up on this Rams team and you had all the momentum in your favor. But look, it started with the offense, right? And one of the big questions that we had, and it was my key matchup coming into this game, was Daniel Brunskill going to be able to actually corral Aaron Donald yet again? We've seen it consistently over the last 5 times that they've played. Daniel Brunskill has basically been Daddy Brunskill to Aaron Donald. And I basically had it as my key matchup being Brunskill and Compton versus Von Miller and Aaron Donald. Ant, Daddy Brunskill showed up again in a huge way. I mean, is this what? Can you explain it? Does it make any sense? Can you wrap your head around this at all, that Daniel Brunskill just owns Aaron Donald?
I mean, it's got to have something to do with physical traits. I mean, there's sometimes people just match up. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You don't know why somebody plays somebody better, but Daniel Brunskill, for whatever reason, whether he can read his body language or the fact that maybe he gets lower than, Aaron Donald at times, but something is there that just makes him able to handle it. And you don't have to explain why. You just have to know that once it becomes consistent like this, that it's not an anomaly. This is just a thing that Daniel Brunskill plays very well against Aaron Donald. And this is something you can expect week in and week out when they play each other. If it had happened a couple times, you're like, okay, well, Daniel Brunskill, he got lucky. There's no luck about this. Daniel Brunskill's handling Aaron Donald, and they needed him to handle Aaron Donald in this football game. And the Rams had to adjust. They had to move Aaron Donald to the other side. They had to try to take advantage of the Colton McKivitz, and Laken Tomlinson side. Trent Williams was definitely missed and missing, and they did take advantage of that with some stunts, to get Aaron Donald into the face of Jimmy Garoppolo, which turned into a turnover. But it wasn't because of Daniel Brunskill, and it wasn't because of Tom Compton, because those two guys continue to play at a high level, especially Brunskill against the Rams. Tom Compton, ever since he took over from Mike McGlinchey at the right tackle spot.
Accurate, Ant. That's very accurate. As the chat was saying in the reaction show post game, Goat Compton. It's not Tom Compton, and it's Goat Compton at this point because he's been everything we needed him to be. I was absolutely stunned, by the way, that Colton McKivitz was the guy starting at left tackle, and not Jalen Moore. I was expecting to see Jalen Moore's name being called, and they went with Colton McKivitz. Is this more akin again to maybe Colton McKivitz being a better run blocking fit for the 49ers in the scheme?
Yeah, I think they went to complete run blocking. Jalen Moore, that's the reason he wasn't starting at right tackle. They felt Tom Compton gave him an advantage in the run game, and I believe they probably thought Colton McKivitz does as well. He's in his second year. Somebody that played guard, but also remember when they drafted him, Alex, they originally thought this guy was going to be the left tackle of the future. So they have a lot of faith in him, but he's also a guy that didn't make the 53-man roster, the initial 53-man
shockingly roster. To us, by the way, shockingly.
And goes to the practice squad and, is able to make it all the way back to the main roster. And these are his first snaps of the season, and they're very significant snaps. But I think you're right. I think that was what it was about, is about the run game. They knew they were going to have to bully that side. They were going to give up something in the pass game, but they were going to try to take advantage of the run game. And it ended up working out, even though there were a couple of times where it looked like that was going to be the Achilles heel in the 49ers offense, is that this left tackle was not going to be able to handle that pass rush. Von Miller getting home on Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of this football game. And what looked like at the time, it could just seal the deal for the Rams and send the 49ers packing. We all know what happens, and that it didn't matter in the long run. But yeah, it'll be nice to get Trent Williams back, somebody that can do both at an elite level, the best offensive lineman in the league.
And one of the best players in the league, Ant. But what was your key matchup? What did you have offensively for this team, and did the Niners execute?
Yeah, my key matchup was all about the quarterback position and not knowing who the quarterback was going to be going into this game. It was the 49ers quarterbacks versus the 49ers generic quarterbacks. And sometimes these 49ers quarterbacks can look generic at times, and we needed them to play at a high level. And I felt like that Jimmy Garoppolo did enough in this game to win. Whenever you throw for over 300 yards and you make some of the clutch throws that he made, you have to tip your hat and say, you know what, you did a good job. Do I think it was flawless and that it was elite caliber? No, I don't. I think Jimmy made some mistakes, but I believe that when the moments he was needed the most, he made those plays. And he showed up in the second half and he made key throws. And I thought that overall the ball looked good coming out of his hands. So I'm going to say that this is a win for the 49ers because Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be tasked at some point in this game. The run game was going to slow up a little bit. They were going to, bring 6 and 7 guys to the line of scrimmage, which they did. And Jimmy was going to have to make those clutch throws, and he made those clutch throws, whether it was Jauan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, or Deebo Samuel. He got the ball out to those guys and got it done. And that's what we needed for the quarterback position. And that's going to be something we need moving forward in the playoffs.
1,000%, Ant. 1,000%. One of the plays that probably changed how this game finished was after the Niners had gotten it to 17 all. They get a stop, they get the ball back. They have a 2nd and 7, and he threw a dime to Brandon Aiyuk. He put it in a window. And it hits Brandon Aiyuk in the hands, and he drops it. And I remember on the broadcast, Buck was like, I was a little behind Brandon Aiyuk. And then you watch the replay, it's like he can't put it anywhere else. If he puts it, a few inches more forward, that ball gets tipped or picked. So Jimmy puts it in the right spot, and it just kind of bounces off his hand. And that's what it felt like from Jimmy for a good chunk of the game. It felt like in most situations, he put the ball in a really good spot for the Niners to make a play. There were obviously a couple of throws that wasn't the case. The pick at the end, the pick in the red zone that Jalen Ramsey miraculously somehow comes down with while he's taking a shot. There were a couple of those type of throws where it was like, oof. But man, can we talk about Jauan Jennings just a little bit? Jauan Jennings, third down out routes late in this football game, and winning one-on-one in coverage. Securing big catches, breaking some tackles as well. 2 touchdown catches on the day. Also, Jauan Jennings showed out in a huge way, in a way that we've never seen from a 49ers wide receiver 3 under the Kyle Shanahan tenure.
Yeah, we knew this was going to be a thing. We talked about Jalen Ramsey effect, where he could go and take one of these players away. Sometimes it was Deebo, sometimes it was Brandon, sometimes it was George. It was never Jauan. So when Jimmy Garoppolo came up to the line of scrimmage, he knew he had a favorable matchup most of the time with Jauan Jennings. Jennings and Garoppolo's timing is impeccable. Like, they are on target with each other. And Jennings has proven to have strong hands and be able to, rip that ball out of the air and then get upfield. It's not always for a lot of yardage, but we saw in this game is he proved he could run after the catch. Everything about him since he's been at Tennessee is all about he makes plays. And that's just something he's about. And he's a good third receiver in this league. I love the emergence. I love the physicality. The run blocking on top of it makes this guy invaluable to this offense. This team is hitting the stride at the right time as far as with these other skill players elevating their game. This was what was always going to be needed. But you saw big games from Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, and Jauan Jennings in the game. You did not see a big game from George Kittle, as a lot of times Jalen Ramsey took him away. Just like you were talking about that interception, Jalen Ramsey is the one that's tasked with stopping George Kittle. Go anywhere else, Jimmy. Go anywhere else with that football. But he didn't. And I thought that is one of the things that, maybe Jimmy would like to have back. I think he would. But overall, I thought that he executed well, and these wide receivers really helped him. You're right. There was a couple of drops that should have been caught. There's one on an RPO where Deebo Samuel, had the ball a little bit behind him and it goes through his hands. That could have been a little bit of a better throw. And then you talked about the one to Brandon Aiyuk. But overall, these receivers were snatching the ball in the air. Jimmy was getting the ball, close to where it needed to be, and they were making the catch. So I have not many complaints about the offense, especially if I just ignore the entire first half.
And that's what you have to do, though. In order to have no problems with the offense, you have to just ignore the first half. It didn't happen, right? You just focus on the last
2 or 3 drives.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have a lot of drives. I mean, listen, the first half, I don't know if I can put it so much on the 49ers offense. The Rams defense came out with a specific game plan in mind in a way that they wanted to take certain things away from the 49ers. Your defense didn't really do you a lot of favors in the first half, not getting off the field. You had third and 11s, third and 7s, third and 10s, and just convert. A third and 16 at one point, convert. They just converted on third downs. And they converted on third and longs. It wasn't third and shorts that they were converting on. It was third and mediums, third and longs that they were converting on. You just can't do that if you're the 49ers. I mean, you can't put teams into those positions, get them into third and longs, and then not take advantage of them. That's just silly. The whole point of keeping 7 guys in the box and putting them in these positions is that you get them into these third and long situations where you are comfortable, you can get off the football field. So early in this game, the Niners defense didn't execute. I didn't really want to put a lot of the struggles of the offense on the offense because I didn't get to see enough drives from the 49ers offense in the first half to be like, yeah, nothing's working. We suck. Jimmy's the problem. It was like, it's really kind of too hard to tell what's going on with the Niners offense. They haven't really touched the ball that much.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of cool plays, Alex, I want to talk about in this game from the offense, and that's one of them is the hook and ladder. That was got great. Out of Brandon Aiyuk, getting into Deebo and then allowing Deebo to get up the sideline and then out of bounds when you don't have timeouts to play with. So that was a nice play in the game. And then I thought also the fake double screen, get the ball to George Kittle in the middle of the field, even though it only got 8 yards, it was a nice look. And I like that. It's something that you can do. This is a little bit, attributed to the West Coast offense. Bill Walsh had a play like this that he ran in the 80s where he would send both running backs out into the flat. That would pull the linebackers away, and then he would attack the middle of the field with a tight end. I thought this was a nice move by them, a way to get George Kittle open and possibly, move the sticks again. So I thought those were great plays in this game, and the 49ers needed those plays at the pivotal time. And I think it proved that Kyle Shanahan was not afraid to take chances in this game. He wasn't afraid to dial up any sort of play that he needed to win, and I think he did it in this game. And Deebo Samuel, when he gets the ball in the backfield, is absolutely shot out of a cannon. The way he runs and the physicality that which he plays with, he is actually one of the closest things to having a running back that is close enough to Elijah Mitchell, but he comes from the receiver position. He's changing the game for sure. I think that people are going to be trying to find Deebo Samuel kind of players because he's becoming the most versatile weapon in the league. And here we had a game where you had Cooper Kupp was one of the best wide receivers in the league, but I believe he was outmatched and outshined by what some would deem a gadget player. What I deem is just a freaking darn good football player.
Just a football player, Ant. He's a football player. He does everything you need him to do. You need him to block, he'll block. You need him to run the ball, he'll run the ball. You need him to catch, he'll catch. You need him to run after the catch. He can run after the catch.
I was going to ask you, Alex, one thing. Did you notice that they switched him after the JaMychal Hasty return, the kick return, where the Niners got backed up? They moved him to kick return. My thought process was they did it so the Rams would kick it out of the end zone every time and not angle it. Did you think the same thing?
Yes. As soon as I saw him back there, I was like, they're trying to just make sure they start at the 25. They don't want to fall into a situation like they did against Seattle, right? Where you're starting to mount to come back in the second half. or excuse me, you're not able to. You have a tight game, but you're not able to get anything moving offensively because you're starting inside your own 10. Because Seattle, right? You had a lead, and then you started inside your 10 on pretty much every drive in the second half of the football game, and just having to go 90 yards every drive is just too much. It's just too much for your offense. And you're starting from playing down in this game. So they moved him back there. They started kicking out of the end zone because they don't want him touching the football. Brilliant strategy by whoever made that decision. I'm assuming Hightower pulled the trigger on it, but Shanahan obviously approved it. Brilliant strategy.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it's a kind of an under the radar move in this football game because what it did was take the pressure off of that special teams unit to have to perform in a big way. They were already, feeling the stress after the Mitch Wisnowski injury, which 100% should have been a penalty for helmet to helmet. They got to protect these players, especially special teams players such as Mitch Wisnowski, who's a specialist. That's going to bring into question what they're going to do this week because he's going to be in concussion protocol. Maybe they bring back the punter that they had earlier this year on the practice squad a couple weeks ago, bring him back. Those are going to be big questions. Or do the 49ers just go full gangsta, Alex, and just go with just Robbie Gould as the specialist and leave that extra roster spot for another player?
I don't. Do you really see that happening?
No, they're going to bring in a punter.
Thank you. I was going to say, I don't think there's any way you're rolling out there with Robbie Gould as your punter. I just don't see it.
I kind of like the idea. Just don't punt, man. Just go get out there and just get it done.
Hey, I'm not gonna hate on that. I'm really not gonna hate on that at all, Ant. But look, special teams, they ended up. We almost had a couple blocked punts today as well. It was very interesting on that 4th and 19 when the Niners decided to punt with just a couple minutes left in the football game. I was definitely worried, definitely concerned. But when we got to that 4th down, part of me thought, did Kyle do this because number one, he believed in the defense would get off the football field, but number two, they've been really close to blocking a couple of punts. Does he think maybe they can get one here and maybe just erase this game and erase basically, anything that the Rams have done up to this point? I thought that to myself because they had gotten close a couple times and they got close on that last punt also. Punt block was on top of it today.
Yeah, and you saw once again the elevation of some of these players from the practice squad that have been beneficial for this team on special teams. Mark and Zocha and those guys are out there again getting it done. And I think that the special teams has seen improvement. I was disappointed in the special teams on the punt return in the first half where they gave up, 31 yards on a, 48-yard punt or whatever it was. That's not good football. And it ends up being a touchdown for the Rams. But you're right. I think there were situations where he played it. I was worried about Robbie Gould punting, but yeah, I was kind of optimistic that this 49ers punt team could get a block. They came close, really close twice. That would have been big. That would have changed this game. It did not happen, but we have seen a little bit of an increased aggressiveness from the special teams. They're playing a little bit different. It seemed like when they wanted to, they angled the kicks, but a lot of times Robbie Gould kicked it out of the end zone, which I thought was a good thing for the 49ers. Let the Rams start at at the 25-yard line and protect yourselves from any of these returns, which has been somewhat of a backbreaker all season long.
100% has been a backbreaker. Ant wasn't as much today, which you like to see. So yeah, let's Robbie Gould showed he can kick it out of the end zone. So let's get a couple more of those every week. Let's take some of the pressure off the special teams unit from needing to perform on every single kickoff, Ant. I would love that. But defensively, look, at the end of the day, defense is going to win you championships. Your defense has to step up in a big way. And again, the 49ers defense did. We talked a little bit about the run game for the Rams never getting going, never once having an iota of an opportunity to get going. They rushed for, I think it was under 60 yards today of total offense. And we had Rams fans all week coming in here into the chat and talking about how, the addition of Cam Akers was going to open up the Rams run game, give the Niners a taste of their own medicine. They're going to pound the rock. They're going to control the clock and all that with the run game. Not so much. Cam Akers, 5 carries for 3 whole yards, 3 catches for 10 yards. A super impact there from Cam Akers coming off the Achilles. You and I thought there was no way Cam Akers was going to have that big of an impact coming in off of an Achilles injury for a running back. He didn't. And the Rams run game was basically non-existent for 4 quarters.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the 49ers defense came out and just really established themselves at the line. and one inside the box. And that's what they had to do. They had to go out there and take advantage of it. But the fans weren't wrong. The Rams fans weren't wrong about the concerted effort from the Rams to establish the run game and get physical. Early in this game, as soon as they started to go to personnel groupings with extra offensive linemen, I kept waiting for them to run a play action pass out of it and catch them off guard. Of course, they do run the one to Higbee for the touchdown. However, I called that. Everyone knew it was going to happen. I literally, if I would have been in the huddle, I could have told them who was going to get the ball. That's how bad it was, Alex. My dad was over there going, oh, geez, because we knew. But the 49ers were able to stop that, that dedicated run style from McVay. It's all good. It's a good mindset to have. You're going to establish the run. You're going to shorten the game. You're going to make sure you impose your will. It's all good until the defense doesn't allow it to work. And the defense didn't allow it to work. And they got up there and these, linebackers, running backs, cornerbacks, safeties, all in run fits were fantastic in this game. And that really curbed any sort of momentum the Rams could have got from that. Even though they had the time of possession and the first down, winning, they were getting more first downs than the Niners in the first half. The second half, it flipped the script because the run game never showed up. Troy Aikman famously said in the first half, it's not working right now, but later on in this game, it's going to soften up the defense. It's going to get it going. The problem was the 49ers got it going, so the Rams defense stayed on the field. And once the Rams defense was on the field for a while, it completely changed this game.
Yeah, it completely changed the game, and then the pressure came to the offense. You need to now start extending drives. You can't just sit there and hand the ball off here 3 times and get off the football, go off the football field, or hand it twice and put yourself in a 3rd and long. You have to start taking some chances. And that means play action. And that means the Niners defense and the D-line was able to pin their ears back and really go. And they did. They pinned their ears back. They went. The interior O-line of the Rams is suspect, and it showed itself yet again because the pressure was coming from the interior a lot. Arden Key, DJ Jones, Kentavious Street, Kevin Givens, Eric Armstead, all game long, these guys were a problem. And they got after it a big way. They were making big stops in the backfield, tackles for loss. On run plays, they were getting after Matt Stafford, making him step up in the pocket and throw with hands in his face there for 3 or 4 drives to start the second half. And there was basically 3-and-out city. That's what it was. It was 3-and-out city for the Rams, and that really helped the Niners offense get flowing and get going. And again, credit to DeMeco Ryans, tip your hat, because he dialed up blitzes when he needed to. The all-out blitz that he brought, where you had Jimmy Ward coming late on a blitz and that occupied a guy, and Dre Greenlaw came absolutely free and smashed Matt Stafford into the ground. Every time it seemed like they dialed up a blitz, the big blitz sack by Eric Armstead, not Eric Armstead, excuse me, by Fred Warner there late in the game, setting Fred up the gut and him making a move and getting on the interior and getting after Stafford. It was huge. It was huge for this D. The blitz timing was, again, spot on from DeMeco Ryans, and it resulted in them forcing, and Matt Stafford late in the game, trying to make plays, forcing things, which is something we said Matt Stafford would do. If Matt Stafford starts reeling and this offense starts reeling, he's going to rely on that arm talent. And he's going to make some throws and take some chances that he shouldn't take. It ended up in a big interception from Emmanuel Mosley late in that football game, and then the game sealer by Ambry Thomas.
Yeah, and it was that first blitz that you're talking about, the one where Jimmy Ward came and then you had Dre Greenlaw get home. They also blitzed Fred Warner as well. So they just brought everyone. They brought a smoke blitz off of that side.
And that was the one they dropped Ebukam back in coverage, correct?
It was. They dropped Ebukam back. It was a nice zone blitz scheme. And it really caught Matthew Stafford and them off. But you're right, the timing was impeccable. And that's why my key matchup in this game, it was DeMeco Ryans versus Matthew Stafford. And early in this game, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay had the number of the 49ers defense. How much of that was this 49ers defense, having so many players out and on COVID protocols and then getting back into the fold and then eventually being able to figure it out? And how much of that? Matthew Stafford is still a very talented quarterback. He was dropping some absolute dimes out there. And when you have Cooper Kupp, and Odell Beckham Jr., you have enough talent, but then you have a tight end like Tyler Higbee as well that you can get the football to. I thought they were very talented, and he was able to sling it around. But I thought DeMeco Ryans made all the necessary changes that he needed to make in the second half. He rushed for 4, and then when he had to, he brought the blitz. But when it came down to it, when it was closing time, this 49ers defensive line got it done. The end of the fourth quarter, the Rams have an opportunity to go down and get that field goal, right? Aaron Rodgers did that in the regular season. Not today, because Eric Armstead gets it done. Closing time, this defensive line is going to have to be the ones that make the plays. They did in this game. So DeMeco Ryans schemed it up. I believe Matthew Stafford made it really close, but I'm going to give DeMeco Ryans and his 49ers defense the win because ultimately they made more plays than Matthew Stafford, and that's what won the Niners the game.
Look, it's not always necessarily how you start, too. How you finish matters just as much as how you start. You can start really poorly, and if you finish stronger, then everything, all the mistakes of the past are forgotten. The sins are washed away, and all that matters is what you did, how you ended it, how you finished. And D'Amico Ryans in this defense finished extremely strong. They truly did. He did a great job making halftime adjustments, and the Niners going out and executing those adjustments and being the team that we all thought they were going to be in the first half in that second half of that football game. It was absolutely huge. But another reason that was huge, Ant, was my key matchup, which was originally was Ambry Thomas, but all the COVID protocols, Ant, forced me to go with the DB group itself. But it was the DB group against Kupp and Jefferson. I specifically said those two because number one, Jefferson has been the big play kind of guy that they go to, the deep shots downfield and all that other stuff, number one. But number two, I felt very comfortable that Emmanuel Moseley, you're going to put him one-on-one with OBJ at times, he's going to have success. I had complete faith that Emmanuel Moseley was going to be able to slow him down, and he did. He did in a big way. Cooper Kupp was always going to get his. He's one of the best receivers in the league, if not the best receiver in the NFL. So Cooper Kupp was always going to get him. So the DB group needed to, number one, understand that Cooper Kupp's going to get him, but try and limit him as best you can. And they did that. They did that the best they could. But number two was not let the rest of them get going. You can't let Jefferson also have a day if Cooper Kupp's having himself a day. And they didn't. Jefferson did not have himself a day. He was not able to really explode. He had a couple of catches. Yes, he extended some plays in the first half and extended some drives for them. But Van Jefferson was not really a factor for this offense, nor was OBJ. And with neither guy not being a factor, it came down to Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp being lights out all game long. Yes, Tyler Higbee had some success in the red zone against Ambry Thomas, caught the 2 touchdown passes. I get that early in the football game. But outside of that, there really wasn't a whole lot from this receiving core other than Cooper Kupp. And when that happens, and you hold Matt Stafford under 300 yards, yes, he threw 3 touchdowns, but 2 of those came in the first half. And he also threw 2 big picks. Look, at the end of the day, you tip your hat to the 49ers DB core yet again, having a wonderful performance and a wonderful showing. Ambry Thomas starting a little bit slower and then ratcheting it up at the end of the football game and the big pick.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show that they just don't take a lot of shots at him. They did take a couple, and one of them worked and one of them didn't, but they didn't really go after him a lot. In fact, they didn't go after Emmanuel Moseley a lot either. What they tried to take advantage of was Dante Johnson playing the slot with no K'Wan Williams. That was a weakness, and they went after it. And I thought that, early in this game, Van Jefferson caught a ball, and Dre Greenlaw absolutely demolished him and put Jefferson out of the game. It warranted a flag, and it got a flag. But I think it set the tone for Van Jefferson for the rest of the game, because this is a guy that lives over the middle, and especially in these deep seam routes where who's going to be waiting for him? Safeties and linebackers. So he did have another catch down the field, but I think he was a little leery. And when you're a little leery, it changes the way you approach going after a football and, what you're doing as far as when you come across. You start looking for defenders instead of looking for areas where you should sit down. Sometimes that changes the way. But yeah, that's part of the game Dre Greenlaw brings is a little bit of physicality, a little bit of aggressiveness. The fact that he was ready to take Cam Akers to Suplex City. Also, I believe in this game, of course, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck wanted the penalty right there, but I believe Fred Warner coming in and helping on that situation with a little bit of a nudge definitely prevented the referees from throwing a flag. But Dre Greenlaw's physicality, his tackles, and the way he was able to cover running backs out on the edge and out of the backfield were definitely big time in this game and a big tools to reason why this 49ers defense was able to get off the field and cause a lot of problems for them. But you're right, the secondary played well, schemed it up very well. Ambry Thomas is coming on at just the right time. Ambry Thomas, Emmanuel Moseley, who got cheated on that pass interference, by the way. That is the weakest pass interference I think I've seen this year. That was the lightest of pulls that you could ever see. But I guess if they're going to call it, it means the number 1 receiver in the league right now. So I guess he's going to get it. But in that situation, I hate that call. I don't hate that coverage from Emmanuel Moseley. Keep doing that. But yeah, overall, this is secondary's looking good, and the 49ers defense is looking good heading into playoffs. And they've got a big, tall order ahead of them.
Oh yeah, man! I talk about a matchup with a high-powered offense and with a lot of weapons offensively at the receiver position in CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, the running back position with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Your tight ends over there, Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, have been coming on big time for them. The real question for them is O-line play. Again, because they got some issues with the left tackle who's out. Their right tackle has been hurt for a good chunk of the year as well. And they've had some, just a rotating group of guys there on the interior for them. So you're playing a run defense here in the Niners that they really haven't faced a run defense like this, and that doesn't have to commit 5, 6, 7 guys to the line of scrimmage, that has been able to get it done with 4. So if you're getting it done with 4, if you're the Niners, it's going to change a lot of the way that Dak has to play. And you're going to have to see Dak maybe drop back 40 times in order to win a football game. And that just means that your 49ers pass rush is going to be able to pin their ears back and get after him, which is a positive thing for the 49ers. The real just question will be, how much time does Dak Prescott have? And does the mobility play a factor? Because we've seen mobile quarterbacks have success against the Niners, able to extend plays and then be able to get after the young secondary, who has to cover for 5-6 seconds instead of 3 to 4.
Oh, it's definitely going to play a factor. I mean, Dak's mobility and him able to, move the pocket. However, the 49ers have played against mobile quarterbacks better, I think, this year than they've ever done before.
True.
And that's because they're playing against Kyler Murray, they're playing against Russell Wilson, but they're playing against Trey Lance in practice. And it has prepared them for this sort of situation. Trey Lance is the perfect guy to be playing Dak Prescott in practice. They're going to get very good looks at this, the Cowboys offense and scout team, because Trey Lance is going to be able to duplicate the things that Dak Prescott can do. He has a more elite arm than Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott's, of course, further along and right now a better quarterback. But I think that, Dak Prescott is not far off from what Trey Lance could be really soon. And I think down the road he could even be better than that. So I think the 49ers are equipped for this. But you're right, they're going to have to keep tabs on him. And it is a little bit different when you're playing a stationary target. You see the 49ers running stunts up front. They just want to collapse the pocket on top of him. In this next game, they're going to want to set the edge, even with their pass rush. Keep the pass rush lane integrity, and make sure that you still get a push from the inside. So you might see more bull rushing from the inside than normal. But you're right, if they can take advantage of that Dallas Cowboys offensive line, they're going to have success. They were definitely able to take advantage of the Los Angeles Rams offensive line. And that's the reason why, at the end of the game, the Rams were struggling and the 49ers were thriving.
Yeah, I mean, the trench warfare is what this team is based on. It's the identity of this team offensively and defensively. Your O-line being able to win against opponents' fronts is huge and crucial, because it allows you to establish that run game and then set up your play action looks and things of that nature. And then defensively, your pass rush is the priority. You're predicated on them, the Niners, not only being able to get after the quarterback, but also being able to slow down running lanes and attack lanes for opponents' offenses in their rush game, by winning against double teams and destroying when you got the guys on the front, on the interior, who are singled up. When DJ Jones and Eric Armstead are blowing through one-on-one blocks, getting in 3 yards into the backfield on handoffs and basically tackling the running back or getting a hand on him as he's receiving a handoff, that's a problem. That's a problem for opposing teams' rush games, and then being able to get downhill and get up to second level and get clean running in lanes and attempts. The Niners need to keep doing that. If they can keep doing that with 7 guys and 4 down linemen, teams are going to struggle against this Niners defense, putting up a lot of points all season long.
Yeah, and it was evident in this game. They just kept rotating. I remember on the second drive of the game, I was looking at who the pass rushers were, and I saw that it was Jordan Willis and Omenihu on the outside, Charles Omenihu. And then I looked on the inside, and it was Kentavious Street and Kevin Givens, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a full line change. They were going to make sure they had guys fresh in this football game. And the only way you're able to do that, if you feel you have that depth to be able to do that. And Chris Kasarik rotated these guys through. And that's why when it came to the end of the game, you had Armstead, Bosa, and those guys, Arden Key, that were fresh and able to get out there and still get after it. They weren't tired and worn down. So I thought that was a big part of this football game, was those second unit guys and third unit guys able to get out there and not only stop the run, but then get after Matthew Stafford and at least make him feel uncomfortable. That's big for the 49ers, and that's something that is going to be huge for them in the playoffs, because they are going to be chasing Dak Prescott. They probably are going to see Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and those are going to be situations you have to win up front. And if you do, it's a recipe for success. And in this game against the Los Angeles Rams, it was definitely a recipe for success, and it was closing time. It's the reason they went and got Nick Bosa in the draft. It's the reason they had, brought in all these other guys and paid Chris Kasarik what they pay him, because they know if you can get that pass rush going, you can win. John Lynch was very aware of this in Tampa Bay. Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp, those guys were able to close out games when it was on the line, and that's what the 49ers were able to do in this game.
They really did. They really did. They've been doing this a lot too this season. The John Lynch knows what he's doing. Chris Kasarik obviously knows what he's doing, with this defense and what they've been able to do. And the addition of Dre Greenlaw just made it a lot easier for the Niners to be able to do a lot of different things defensively with D'Amico Ryans, whether that's flexing him out in space to cover running backs and tight ends out there, and allowing Fred Warner to operate in the middle, or even send him on blitzes, to just being able to feel comfortable and throwing 7 guys in the box and being like, hey, our linebacker is going to fly around in a big way and make plays. Fred Warner, 10 tackles on Sunday, and Dre Greenlaw with 12 tackles. just a huge job by this linebacking core. Great job by the Niners front overall in general. Fred Warner is playing like the all-pro Fred Warner that everyone knows and loves, Ant. And it couldn't come at a better time because you got Dre Greenlaw back in this fold. You're hopefully getting Azeez Al-Shaair back as well for this opening round playoff game. And we're finally going to see, hopefully, this linebacking core together out in the football field at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it for what, like maybe like a little bit, like over a quarter of
Yeah,
one
and
game
we weren't seeing Azeez at the rate he'd been
at the
playing.
level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those things where we're getting guys back at the right time. And I think that a lot of these injuries are actually going to benefit the 49ers in the long run because they've been equipped to battle through them. So now when obstacles come up, the 49ers are able to overcome those obstacles. You haven't had players in there, but the backups have learned along the way and they've developed. And you see that development. I mean, I think there's no clearer development than Marcel Harris at the linebacker position and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Both of those guys have developed even just this season. From what we saw in training camp to what we see now are two vastly different football players. And that goes to show how good this coaching staff is, how good DeMeco Ryans is. And now they just got to put these guys in places to be successful like they did in this game. Even though the 49ers gave up 24 points, the fact they only gave up 7 points, after from basically over a half, is an impressive performance from them and one that can win in the playoffs. And it wasn't against like a bad offensive team, but against an offensive team that saw Matthew Stafford throw for nearly 5,000 yards. It's been impressive. And the fact that he broke a franchise record from Kurt Warner for yards in a season, I think is tremendous and goes to show what kind of a season he has and how impressive this DeMeco Ryans and 49ers defense was, slowing them down and ultimately helping the 49ers get this victory and get into the playoffs.
The Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay pairing in Sean McVay's eyes has to be a success, right? Has to be. You had 11 wins on the season. You threw for more passing yards in Matt Stafford. Well, not the most in Matt Stafford's career, but it's in there. But you broke a franchise record for it, Ant, as well as Matt Stafford throwing for the most touchdowns in his career since his times with Calvin Johnson very early on with the Detroit Lions. So this was not a slouch of an offense. And, Rams fans have to be sitting there going, God, what if Robert Woods was still healthy and you had Odell Beckham Jr. with this fold and Van Jefferson playing the way he was playing? They would be a major problem with Robert Woods in the fold with this group. But Robert Woods is not there, and they're still formidable. There's still something to behold. And they're going to be a tough out for everyone in this playoff run, and they're starting with Arizona. So that is going to be a very interesting and intriguing matchup with those two teams because they split the series 1-1. We'll see who gets up over the other one here in the playoffs. But the Niners, you got to turn your attention now to Dallas. You got to turn your attention to CeeDee Lamb. You got to turn your attention to Amari Cooper. You got to turn your attention to Micah McCarthy in this offense and with Kellen Moore as the O coordinator. They're a young O coordinator in that, and a team that is hungry for a playoff win and hungry for some playoff success and a rivalry now fully restored 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, and the golden age of the 49ers era of the 80s and 90s, and the golden age for the Cowboys as well in that early 90s with the success they had against the Niners is now back on full display. And the NFL is licking their chops about this as well.
Yeah, it was about forcing your team almost into obscurity. You had the Dallas Cowboys being the dominant force they were in the 70s and overcoming the 49ers, especially early in the 70s. And then you had the 80s where you had the emergence of Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, and this 49ers dynasty. And that puts down the Cowboys. The Cowboys kind of disappear. Danny White and Ed Two-Dollar-Jones are eventually gone. And then you don't see the reemergence of them until they get Jimmy Johnson in that early 90s. And they rebuild this team around Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, and these guys. And I think that it's a complete flip because then they end up being really I know they kind of stopped the 49ers dynasty, even though the 49ers win again with Steve Young, it does slow it up big time. They are a thorn in our sides. This has been a rivalry for years, and there's going to be a lot of emotion from fans in this game. Now, these two teams, they don't know each other that well. They haven't played each other a whole lot, but the 49ers, I'm sure, will be somewhat, familiar with Mike McCarthy and what he does. He coached in the league for a long time. So this is going to be a cool matchup. There's a lot of good players on both teams. And I think a lot of young cats as well that are going to want to make an impact, whether that's Trayvon Diggs, and those guys over there, or, it's Ambry Thomas and the 49ers defense here. And I think that the emerging stars is going to be something to watch, but just the overall excitement of this game is going to be fun. The renewing of the rivalry. Can the 49ers, go ahead and dispel the Dallas Cowboys and move on in the playoffs? I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, and I'm getting ready. I'm getting really excited and ready to break this thing down.
I'm really excited for it too. And the Cutback crew, you should be really excited because you got chock full lineup of content all week long coming your way, culminating in the Friday Frenzy, in which we will have a Madden sim of this wild card game. We will have ourselves a game preview show. You will have a What's Good with Jay in the Bay playoff edition and a playoff edition of Know Your Opponent. The very first season 2 of the 49ers Cutback Ant is the first year of playoff content, and I couldn't be happier about it. I'm absolutely stoked for this week, and I'm still extremely jacked off this win, man. How could you not be? I mean, the only thing that would have made this better was a 49ers shellacking of the Rams from opening kickoff till fourth quarter, timer runs to 0. But listen, the Niners struggled early. They come back into this football game. They overcome a 17-0 deficit, force overtime, after a huge drive from Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners going down the field, marching down the field and punching one in, and then control the ball in overtime and get the field goal from Robbie Gould and Kyle Juszczyk, the utility do-it-all worldly man that he is, coming through in a huge way for the 49ers. What a storyline. What a finish. Give me some playoffs. I need this in my life. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, the world is just a better place when the 49ers are in the playoffs. 2020 was not a good situation. The Niners were nowhere near the playoffs, but they're back. And this is going to be an exciting time, and there's a lot of things that are going to go into this and a lot of questions, and we're going to be covering it all week. Of course, we're going to have a lot of news updates because I'm sure we're going to have some injury updates. We're going to have the 49ers having to make some decisions because we're going to have Mitch Wisnowski out. We need to know what's going to be happening with Jaquiski Tartt and Talanoa Hufanga. But also, is Trent Williams going to be back? That's going to be a big thing this week. Is K'Wan Williams going to be filling up to playing playoff football? All these questions have to be answered. And we're going to be talking about it all week, nonstop action all week long. And I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to this game. But we don't know, exactly what happens, what the outcome is. But overall, the one thing I will say about this game, because you brought up about the blowout, one thing that happens with a comeback like this, the second biggest comeback of the NFL season, is you prove to yourself that you can do it. So now you feel like there's no game that you go into that you can't win. This also built confidence even more than they already had in Jimmy Garoppolo, that Garoppolo can go down and do it. Jimmy Garoppolo has proven this year on several occasions he can lead the team down the field to win the game. And I think that's all you're asking for is an opportunity, and he's proven that he can do it. So I'm hoping that this team rallies and gets it done. What a great story it would be if the 49ers could go in there and knock off the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, and then let's see what happens. Is it going to be a trip to Tampa? Is it going to be a trip, to Green Bay? I don't know what it's going to be, but overall, I just want to win over the Cowboys.
That's all you want. That's all you want, man. And for 49ers fans who are, if you want to try and look ahead, you absolutely can. Reseeding happens in the playoffs. So if the Niners were to win their game against the Cowboys, they're going to play essentially, in theory, the best team still available, which would be Green Bay. They would be heading to Green Bay, barring the Eagles not upsetting the Bucs. If the Eagles upset the Bucs, then the Eagles would be heading to Green Bay, and the 49ers would be going to face the winner of the Rams-Arizona game, which would be very interesting. You get another NFC West matchup there. You get NFC West to open the round and then NFC West in the second round. So we'll see what happens. The Niners have to focus one game at a time, though.
And you bring up the NFC West. We talk about tough divisions in the NFL. NFC West with 3 teams that got to double-digit wins.
This is crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. It's an impressive division.
Who would have said that, by the way, after the way the season started for the 49ers after about 6-7 games into the season? Who would have said that 3 teams in the NFC West finished with double-digit wins?
I don't know. I mean, it was going to be tough. We knew Arizona was probably going to do it, and the
100%.
Rams were trending that way. But the 49ers didn't look like they were on their way. It looked like it was going to be tough. I believe we did say, I think I remember saying, and somebody can correct me if they want, but I do believe saying that 49ers would need 10 wins to get to the playoffs. They got 10 wins. So they got it done. But yeah, what an impressive way to get to 10 wins after that losing streak. The 49ers have played really good football down the stretch that can't be missed. That's something they can carry into the playoffs. Over the last 8 games of the season, especially 9 games, they have been one of the best football teams in the league.
100% they have been it, and they need to continue being that if we want to win a Super Bowl. This team has to keep playing at the level it's been playing at. Limit the turnovers, limit the mistakes and the shooting yourselves in the foot. Continue to play high-level defense, slow down run games, and impose your will on your opponent. The Niners can keep doing that. The Super Bowl is not out of the conversation, out of the question, and a win in Dallas this upcoming week. We don't know if it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, whatever day it ends up being, Ant. The Niners will have a chance to do it if they can do those things. But Cutback crew, let us know what you thought about this week 18 game and this huge overtime win? Were you ecstatic through the moon? You can't take it with this team. You just can't sometimes. They just got to make everything so dramatic, and you hate every second of it until the 49ers actually win. We want to hear from you in the comment section down below. What was your favorite moment in play as well? Let us know down there. And while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hit the notification bell because there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff happening all week long. We're going to have a lot of exciting content. I'm sorry. I'm sure we'll get some exciting comments as well. If you watch the live stream, you know that people are out in force, and we got a lot of great comments, and people were talking about interesting things. And it was exciting. So if you haven't watched that, hop over and watch the 49ers, Cutback, our reaction show to the 49ers game, because the 49ers faithful and the 49ers Cutback crew showed up in a big way, and it was an exciting episode. And a lot of people are excited. A lot of people, having some soul searching about Jimmy Garoppolo. And some people just, being observing it and just saying, you know what, this is how it is. And I like that. I like how people's mindsets were. It's a good point. So hop over there and check that out. That's exciting. But all the content all week, get ready for it. It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be exciting. And we got lots of stuff coming your way. Cutback crew. We'll see you on the next one. And until then, stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.